Ikana Kingdom was founded on this land, stained with a history of darkness, drenched in blood. Even now it is a place where spirits gather. Those were the words Link was greeted with as he ventured through the desolate Ikana Valley. And they're true. Ikana is a land filled with death and despair, ever haunted by its blood-stained past. It is a kingdom where even the dead now find no rest. Although there is something that nobody knows about that eerie stone tower that overshadows the land. It was once home to the Ancient Ones. Hey guys, Renaissance Gamer here. Last time we took a look at the lifespan of the Ancient Ones as they traveled from Hyrule and were ultimately sealed away in the Twilight Realm. So I bet you think you have a good grasp of the history of the Ancient Ones. And you do. Well, sort of. You see, we did spend some time discussing the Dark Tribe, but that was a general overview. The thing is, as far as we know, the Ancient Ones conducted rituals on the Majora's Mask, and that was that. They left Termina seeking the Triforce. Yet, I theorized that the tribe had a much greater impact on Termina's history than the game initially let on. For there are many questions as to how the tribe became so powerful, the biggest one being, how did they actually manage to travel from Termina to Hyrule? And that's where the Stone Tower Temple comes in. The land of Ikana surrounding the Stone Tower is filled with despair from a long history of bloodshed, betrayal, and misery. This once great civilization lost everything and is now cursed by the dead. But how? The thing is, nobody knows. See, I theorize that the Ancient Ones' hands are not as clean as the game wants us to believe. As the Dark Interlopers, they brought chaos and death, and I'm willing to bet that the races of Hyrule were not their first victims. So do not hesitate. Come with me now as we unravel the evidence explaining how the Ancient Ones accomplished all of this and forever changed the history of The Legend of Zelda. Let's go! After traveling through the poisonous swamps of Woodfall, the freezing peaks of Snowhead, and the crashing coasts of Great Bay, Link eventually makes his way to the abandoned land of Ikana. In the Ikana Valley, Link is greeted only with death and despair, but that was not always the case. Long ago in the ancient days of Termina, there existed a powerful civilization in these eastern valleys. This was known as the Kingdom of Ikana. Most likely a fertile land because of the Ikana River running through it. The kingdom grew to be a large and prosperous size, with the composer Sharp and Flat being regarded as the greatest musicians throughout the land. Ikana was most likely both a cultural and artistic hub, although Ikana was not without its protection, as their army, led by the brave Captain Kita, protected the land from foreign invaders. As long as the reign of their king, Igus du Ikana, stayed intact, it seemed that the sun would never set on the ancient kingdom of Ikana. Although life flourished in the kingdom of Ikana, King Igus became ever more wary of the stone towers that loomed over the valley. He sensed their evil presence and feared that something bad might happen. Little did he know that these towers would forever change the history of Ikana. Well, the Stone Tower. Where do I even start? Alright, so what we do know is that when Link visits Ikana, it is learned from the Poe Sharp and King Igus du Ikana that the evil energy coming from the tower is what plagues the land. Now, Igus does mention that not even Ikana's royal army could topple Stone Tower. This indicates that Igus has been cursed by the tower in the past, or he at least has been endangered by it before. Now this makes me wonder how exactly it is that the Kingdom of Ikana came to its end. Now the game does mention that the Gyros fought against Ikana, and trust me, this will be covered later, as it is very important to this theory. But I find it appropriate first to discuss the origin of the Stone Tower. The Tower of Babel. In the land of Shinar, man built a great tower in their attempt to glorify themselves over God. As a result, God punished man by creating different languages, and thus the tower's construction had to be abandoned. Popular theory suggests that the stone tower is symbolic of the biblical Tower of Babel. Now this is a very well established theory, so I will merely summarize it briefly. The builders of Stone Tower had knowledge of the Hyrulean goddesses, so they built this tower in disrespect to prove that themselves and their 4 male giants were superior to them. But the goddesses punished the builders by flipping Stone Tower upside down, thus making its completion impossible. Evidence supporting this theory is very clear, as there is a finger pointing upwards towards the heavens, next to the disrespectful face, alongside 4 questionable-looking pillars atop the stone tower. Another thing that is interesting to note is that throughout the entire game of Majora's Mask, the Triforce is never displayed or mentioned in Termina, except for in the land of Ikana and the stone tower, where both pillars and blocks can be seen displaying the Triforce. This leads people to believe that the builders of the stone tower had knowledge of the Triforce and the existence of the goddesses. But who exactly are the builders of Stone Tower? Now, this is never stated, and is only a theory, but I truly believe that the Ancient Ones were the creators of the Stone Tower. Now this of course will need some explaining, and I will continue to give evidence supporting this claim throughout my video. But right now, I can tell you this much. Last time, I explained how the Ancient Ones eventually traveled to Hyrule to attempt to steal the Triforce. This is when they became known as the Dark Interlopers and were sealed in the Twilight Realm. Well, the fact that they knew about the Triforce does match up with the fact that the builders of Stone Tower displayed the Triforce on the various blocks and pillars throughout Ikana. On top of this, in the game of Majora's Mask, when the Skull Kid reopened the doors to Stone Tower, he unleashed the evil energy of Majora's Mask, which eventually re-plagued the land of Ikana. Now, when the Stone Tower was initially built, this is where the Ancient Ones did their hexing rituals on the Majora's Mask. This explains how dark energy was stated to have been coming from Stone Tower way back in the time when Ikana was still a prosperous civilization. On both of these occasions, the dark power flowing out of the Stone Tower came from the Majora's Mask. In the past, the power came from the Ancient Ones using the mask and hexing rituals, while in the future, it came from the Skull Kid using the Majora's Mask to create chaos and destruction. So knowing that the Ancient Ones lived and built the Stone Tower and the Stone Tower Temple, you gotta know that as they did their hexing rituals, this dark energy seeped into the land of Ikana, and it was for this reason that King Igu's to Ikana forbid anyone from ever opening the doors to Stone Tower, and this is also the reason why the Kingdom of Ikana would eventually meet its end. The long bloody history of Ikana has been shrouded in mystery to the rest of Termina for many, many years. Well, that wasn't until Link ventured into the Cursed Kingdom of old. Through encounters with the ghost of Ikana, Link was able to learn that the valley owed much of its suffering to the tragic events of the Great War of Ikana. It also becomes clear that the Garo robes played a large part in Ikana's history. Now, not everyone's familiar with them, so I'll explain. The Garo robes are the spirits of skillful ninjas that clashed with Ikana Kingdom in the past. They were found by Link wandering throughout the desolate valley, seeking no rest, still trying to gather information on Ikana. However, I'm not fully convinced that the Garos alone could wage war against the trained royal army of Ikana. This seems fishy. But I do believe that the Garos' identity is crucial to solving this entire mystery. See, the Garos hail from an enemy land, and this is never stated in the game, but I truly believe that this land is none other than the Stone Tower. There is evidence supporting my claim, for one of the mini-bosses that Link fights inside the temple itself is none other than the leader of the Garos, the Garo Master, indicating that the Garos have connections with the Stone Tower and its history. It's amazing, really, how every event points to the Stone Tower. All of these puzzle pieces are finally falling into place, so hang on, for now things get really interesting. See, this may be extremely difficult to believe at first, but I theorize that the Garo robes' connections to Stone Tower also suggest that they are members of the same tribe that inhabited Stone Tower, the Ancient Ones. Yes, the Ancient Ones! Now before you automatically dismiss this idea, let's look at it logically. Both of them not only have connections to Stone Tower, but they also have interests that make them enemies to the Kingdom of Ikana. Think about it. It makes sense now that Ikana's royal army was defeated by the combined might of the Ancient Ones' magic and the Garo swordsmanship. Which brings me back to what happened all those years ago. The Ancient Ones were using Majora's Mask to create the Fused Shadow. When they felt that Ikana Valley seemed a good test subject for their new power, they sent their elite ninjas, the Garos, to spy on the kingdom, looking for when to strike. but Igu's through Ikana grew skeptical of the tower overshadowing the valley, so he ordered Captain Kita to be on alert. Thus, the Great War of Ikana broke out. Captain Skull Kita besieged the tower, but to no avail. The war seemed to shift back and forth. As assumed by Ikana's curse, the war must have broken down to pure bloodshed. But one side had to give, and it appeared that the Ancient Ones of Gyros, armed with the few Shadow, were unbeatable. Thus, disaster befell Ikana. Captain Kita perished in battle, as the game loosely mentions, and King Igus watched his kingdom die, before eventually vanishing himself. There King Igus and the spirits created by war would sit, awaiting the day where light would once again shine on Ikana Valley. The Ancient Ones won. Ikana Valley lay in ruin. Pleased with their demonstration of the few Shadows' power, they began creating a portal in the sky so they could go straight to the Sacred Realm and steal the Triforce. But the Hyrulean goddesses would interrupt them before they could finish. They turned Stone Tower upside down to punish them for both their greed and arrogance. Falling into the incomplete portal, the Ancient Ones left Termina forever and entered Hyrule. We finally made it! The portal atop Stone Tower. This portal, although mysterious in origin, is how the Ancient Ones traveled between the two worlds. While playing through Stone Tower Temple, many people have noticed a strange circle in the sky, which cannot be the moon as it is gigantic and has a face. People have come to a reasonable conclusion that this portal is what takes Link to Twin Mold's boss chamber when he turns the temple upside down with the light arrow. I agree with this, but would like to add more. I believe this portal takes Link to Hyrule, in specific, the Gerudo Desert from Twilight Princess. A bold claim, yes, but I quite like making them. As you'll notice, when you enter the portal, Link appears in the middle of a desert where Twin Mold emerges from the sand. This alone only proves the fact that Link is, yes, in a desert. But I'm not finished. Jumping to Twilight Princess, while in the Gerudo Desert, Link fights against a common Zelda enemy, a Moldorm. Although appearing throughout the series, the Moldorms in Twilight Princess are notable for having unique attack patterns and features, unlike in other games. The Moldorms not only have grotesque gaping mouths, but they also leap in and out of the sand to attack Link. In other games, they did not do this, but rather only moved around clumsily. Now that we differentiated the specific Gerudo Desert Moldorm, let's go back to Twin Mold. The fourth boss of Majora's Mask, Twin Mold's fight pits Link against two gigantic creatures, which I presume are mutated Moldorms, as its name is Twin Mold. Proving this origin is not extremely difficult. In the game of Majora's Mask, the four bosses are beings corrupted by the Majora's Mask. Even the few Shadow was seen corrupting Midna in Twilight Princess. From this, we can come to the conclusion that the Dark Mask's power can corrupt and mutate the land and creatures. Thus, I theorize that Twin Mold is a mutated Moldorm from the Gerudo Desert in Twilight Princess. Both those Moldorms and Twin Mold have that trait I mentioned earlier of attacking in and out of the sand, as well as the fact that their appearances are not all that different. More evidence showing the true nature of the portal can be found in the land itself. Since Twin Mold's lair leads to Hyrule, this would mean that the Ancient Ones traveled from Ikana to the Gerudo Desert, and there is evidence for this. Much like Ikana, the Gerudo Desert was corrupted by the presence of the Ancient Ones and their dark power of the masks. Both Majora's Mask, Ikana Valley, and Twilight Princess's Arbiter's Grounds are the retrospective places in the game that are riddled with the undead, further indicating the presence of the dark power. I believe that this, along with the Moldorm similarities, gives proof enough for you to believe that the portal is in fact how the Ancient Ones were able to travel from Ikana to the Gerudo Desert in Hyrule. With all this evidence in hand, let's take a look at the Ancient Ones again. After falling through the portal, the Ancient Ones disappeared from Termina's history, but they reappeared in the Gerudo Desert in Hyrule, bearing a grudge against the goddesses. To take a quick look at this jump, the official Zelda timeline places Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess as consecutive games, further giving credence to the theory that the Ancient Ones came from Termina to start the plot of Twilight Princess. As I mentioned last time, when the Ancient Ones arrived in Hyrule, they took on the name of Dark Interlopers during the Hyrulean Civil War. Speaking of this war again, it now makes more sense that the Ancient Ones and Gyros, as the Dark Interlopers, were able to wipe out the races of Hyrule because they were already battle-hardened in the Great War of Ikana. So the Ancient Ones would ultimately fail in stealing the Triforce again, and the goddesses ended their reign of terror by banishing them to the Twilight Realm. Ironically, the mirror leading into the Twilight Realm is located in the same desert that the Ancient Ones originally arrived in. The legacy of the Ancient Ones faded to nothing more than just a myth, but their sins manifested for one last time in the form of Zant, the King of Darkness. Born into a world of darkness, Zant was different from his fellow Twilight. whereas they accepted to peacefully live in the realm of shadows, Zant wanted revenge. To avenge the misery and shame that the world of light cast on his ancestors, the Dark Interlopers. This was Zant's purpose. Now, I won't give away too much about Zant's role in Twilight Princess, but an analysis of his character reveals many truths to my theory. Born as a true descendant of the Ancient Ones, Zant embodies many of their characteristics. Because of this, Zant provides a common bloodline to the Ancient Ones, Gyros, and the Dark Interlopers. So to start, let's look at his appearance. The Gyros were elite warriors, so it makes sense that Zant would wear his ancestors' ceremonial dress. In great similarity to the Gyro Master, Zant wears a long robe all the time, as well as a mask to hide his face. This mask, which is by far Zant's most defining feature, also has origins with Stone Tower. Zant's defining grotesque tongue is actually the same design that is scattered throughout the blocks in Stone Tower. Even Stone Tower Temple itself mocks the goddesses with this very same image. But things do not stop here, as Zant's own fighting techniques hints towards his ancestors. In battle, Zant utilizes magic much like the Dark Interlopers did, but the really interesting aspect is his swordplay. Both Zant and the Gyro Master battle with twin swords, which they unleash when the battle begins. And although Zant's hysteria makes him a much less disciplined user, he utilizes the Gyro Master's technique of teleporting stealthily in battle. Even in his final moments, Zant obeys his ancestral duty, Gyro law, to die without a corpse. Zant's life was driven by madness, agony, and the ultimate sins of man. With his death, the legacy of the Ancient Ones died for good. After plaguing the world for many years, the Ancient Ones' conquest of arrogance was finally over. Here in the end now, I can only hope that you guys enjoyed this theory. The long twisted history of Majora's Mask is one that I can never hope to answer, but at least I can try to shed some light on the Ancient Ones. To my knowledge, some of the evidence about the Ancient Ones, Gyros, Portal, and Zant have never been shown before, so please, I would love to hear your guys' opinions about all this. And if possible, show your support for my channel so I can continue to bring you all video game mythos and deep secrets. I can't tell where my next journey will take me, but I know that I will one day return to The Legend of Zelda with more questions. Renaissance Gamer Noah here, take care.